So everybody got a piece of cedar, and it's one of the small bags, right? Okay. All right. And we'll explain that in a little bit. I would just like to welcome everyone, and thank you for coming. We are both Linda Skiljade and I are from Ketchikan, and we're just honored to be here to share with you in a very short time that we have. But I'd like to get started with just inviting Skiljade to come up and share a song with us.
Naomi, this song that I want to share this morning was written by Tao Kun's Sherilyn Bellholter, and she wrote, when she composed the song, she had her clan mothers in mind. Her great-grandmother Tink, also known as Jessie Nat Kong, her grandmother Janas, also known as Hazel Bell, and we were able to sing it at a gathering where one of our women in the village of Heidelberg was named as a matriarch for the Yaklanas Yakjanas clan. And so I would like to share it with you. The translation is, amazing woman, hardworking. I'm happy because she's happy. All that I am, I owe to you. Your voice is strong. You are my strength. You are our wealth. Thank you, clan mother. Han kaldeng ajadas hangula haya palgurengai las eil digurengai lagang Tlugdi hits wadlu wandang el saldiagang dung kiltlatskagang di de gwig udang ijung di de gwig udang ijung di as u dung itlak dagang how a kwala au how a kwala au kwala au kwala au kwala au han kaldeng ajadas hangula haya halgurengai las eis digurengai lagang Tlugdi hits wadlu wandang el saldiagang dung kiltlatskagang di de gwig udang ijung di de gwig udang ijung di as u dung itlak dagang how a kwala au how a kwala au kwala au kwala au kwala au
Wow, beautiful. Thank you, Linda. What a beautiful way to start. Hawa, Linda Skiljade. What a beautiful Haida name. I'll introduce myself. And I'm a very much a beginner in Tlingit, but I'm practicing. Kase yuhat duasak. Dao da'u yuhat duasak. Chak guch ayahat. Wishkitan nak hut siti. Tus hit dak ayahat. Akwan dak ayahat. Dakden tan yari ayahat. My name is Naomi Michalsen, and my Tlingit names are Kase and Dao Da'u. My great-grandmother grew up here in the village, here in Juneau. And my grandmother also spent some time here in Juneau. So I feel like I'm coming home, and it's an honor to be here to share. I don't know a lot of my family, but I believe that during this conference, I've met a few, and I'll keep meeting more as I go throughout the weekend. The message is very simple, but also very profound when we think about women are sacred, and because of her, we can. And we have so many examples of, in our world today of the opposite of that. But I hope that the short time that we have together will remind us of who we are and remind us that, women are sacred, and that whether we're male or female, that we all have a job to remember some of our ancestors' teachings, and to try to do our best at becoming professional human beings, and to really spend our time lifting each other up, and really practicing our traditional and indigenous values. I think that we'll find that when we take time to learn about somebody else's culture, whether they live in New Zealand, Australia, Siberia, here in Alaska, we will find the same lessons and teachings of really taking care of each other, and love that's in all of our cultures. So I'll start off with this first slide. This is a picture of my mom and I, and in many sacred texts around the world and within our indigenous cultures, you will find that they say that women will play one of the greatest roles in the establishment of universal peace. This is one of our naming ceremonies, and although we don't have any fluent speakers in my family, we have some practicing. We're also practicing learning some of our traditional ceremonies and bringing those back as well. And that's been so healing and such a difficult journey, but I think in my family it's been, it keeps us going, it brings us hope. Everybody might have heard of Maya Angelou. I love this. A lot of these are just beautiful pictures of or quotes by people that I have respect for, and what they said about the sacredness and the role of women in today's world. A woman in harmony with her spirit is like a river flowing. She goes where she will, without pretense, and arrives at her destination prepared to be herself and only herself. This is Grandmother Percy. She's from Arizona, and she's Hopi and Tewa. And she just came and spent some time with us in Ketchikan, and she helped with our first traditional food and plant symposium there. And this is one of the Hopi prophecies, that the world will begin to heal when the grandmothers speak. And she reminds me that that many of us as women are still silent. So the time is now. Another beautiful picture I found, this one. It says, the old ones say that the women will lead the healing among the tribes. Inside them are the powers of love and strength given by the moon and the earth. This is Patty Bland. She was from Juneau. A lot of you might know, you might not know her. Some of you might know her, but she was an advocate of peace, and she traveled throughout the state of Alaska and helped people in villages all around. And she would do trainings on domestic violence and sexual assault. And they named the new transitional shelter here in Juneau after her. It's the Kase Transitional Center, where it's a longer-term place to stay for women after they might have stayed in Aware. We are all connected. And so that's a theme that you'll find in all of the indigenous cultures. And this is a picture of Rita Blumenstein in the front. My uncle's in the back. Rita's grandmother is in the picture. And my Aunt Becky's on Rita's back. But I love this picture of them. And Sandra, if you know Rita's daughter, Sandra Palmer, is standing next to my Aunt Becky. This is something that was put out about the Canadian Indigenous tribes, basically kind of saying the same thing. This one is powerful. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. When I think about all of our young children that are learning the languages and their songs and dances, and how in today's world they might be getting messages that are telling them the opposite of that. And so how beautiful it is to see them dancing in front of us and learning the language and singing, and along with all of our help and the elders' help. But I love this picture too. One of my favorite and most beautiful teachers, I'm a little biased, is my sister, who passed away a couple of years ago. And people weren't, our family, her own family weren't, we weren't aware of the impact that she had in our community until after she passed away. And at her memorial services, we just kept bringing in more and more chairs in, and it just kept growing and growing. And the state of Alaska honored her, the legislature honored her. There's a billboard somebody made up of this picture. It says "Knock Knocking on Heaven's Door," and it's up at our children's skate park in Ketchikan. And I guess the message here is that my sister, even though some people might have said she had a disability, she had ability. She was known for her ability, and she lived with me for 25 years. And she went around and told people jokes. And she greeted all the she was a K-High super fan, but all of the Juneau kids knew her. All of the Prince of Wales kids knew her, the Wrangell, Petersburg, Metlakatla. All of the coaches knew her because she kind of was the greeter. And she said hello to everyone, and just told everybody how beautiful. She would do sign language, and she would just say how beautiful they were. And it wasn't until our memorial service that we found even part of the impact that she had in our community. She wasn't judgmental, and we found out that she saved several people's lives because she might have gone up to them when they were in a dark place and just said the right thing. So anyway, what a great example of practicing that lateral kindness. And some of these words that we might hear of today, like decolonization or lateral violence, the lateral violence is unfortunately, I think, something that, especially within our own tribes, that we suffer from. And what that looks like is sometimes we're not really practicing our values by holding each other up and encouraging each other, or celebrating other women's successes, being excited for them, even though it might mean that we didn't get that promotion or this didn't happen. So I think of that as something that I strive to just be a little bit like her. And so lateral kindness would be the opposite of that. And one of my relatives from the Yukon, Marilyn Jensen, she teaches, she does these workshops. They're called lateral kindness workshops. And I think it's a great way to think about what it is that we can do. If we should all put it in our strategic plan. I wanted to share a story of Mamie Williams, who on my father's side, Mamie and David Williams from Hoona adopted my grandparents. And so my grandfather, my grandpa Tom, had David Williams' brother's name, and my grandmother was given Mamie's sister's name. And when I first met Mamie, I thought that Mamie was from Hoona. And I found out later that she was really from Juneau. and that she grew up with my great-grandmother. And so I found out that they played together every day and made dolls out of grass, and they got dirty, and they got in trouble because they were always muddy. And but anyway, she said, we did it anyway. We did it every day. But by meeting Mamie, she found she remembered a lot of the names that my mother didn't have anymore. So just by opening, I believe, my heart to go and visit an elder and just wanting to learn, I got much more in return just from taking the time to be together. And she talked about when she first went to Juneau, and when we think about women are sacred, the men came over to the house and they met her, and they escorted her all the way to the longhouse where she was sat in the middle of in the building in a chair where everyone was there to meet her and welcomed her. And they said, you belong here, welcome. And I just think about how powerful that is. Do we do that today? Can we still do that today? And I think we can. And so she became a part of Juneau, and I just love that story about Mamie. So it's in all of us. It's in our children especially. And my granddaughter, Naya, is, she's Tlingit. But she moved to Kotzebue where her name is Avak. And she lives in a different culture. But I think the point is here that this is the first time she ever heard any dancing that was from up north. We call it up north if you live in Southeast. And I believe, of course I could be biased again here, that she had the right beat. She was going with it, and she was, her spirit was connected. And so I think that's, sometimes it's hard to explain how, beautiful things come about. We can't explain them, but we know that, really truly our languages and songs and those values can bring that out, and really connecting to each other. So this is a picture of my friend Susan Christensen, who's in the back, and she traveled around the world really and met women. She quit her job and didn't have much money, but she went around and wanted to know about women. And she wrote a book about it, and also a film. And what she found was, really beautiful if you have a chance to read the book or see the documentary. But she found that no matter where she went, and all the way from Patagonia to Siberia, that all of these grandmothers that she met all believed in the same, the things that kept them going, they cared about the most were their families, faith, love, connectedness, and the children. And so I think that what divides us is that fear of the differences, when in actuality it should be connecting us because of our differences, and that we should see each other's differences and allow that people to be who they are. Love is something that we do. This is what Grandmother Percy said, the Hopi grandmother. We forget the teachings left for us by our ancestors. Our ceremonies are sacred. Balance and harmony are what we move forward, or what we need to move forward.
My sunshine, my lovely sunshine, you make me happy when skies are red.
All right, that's the stage at my house. But I have 9 grandchildren now. And this is, again, Naya. But I love this because they're totally way out of tune. And but you see that spirit coming through because she's allowed to be who she is. And she's singing, you know, I don't know. She's singing. And her older sister is kind of helping her. But yeah. So a lot of these teachings and messages we could find in our children, but we sometimes aren't able to see. This is a picture of my great-grandmother is behind Bessie Fasaya, and I'm next to Rosa Miller, and they're all from Juneau. And although I didn't grow up around them, I just heard about them as family and that they are my opposites. And in Tlingit culture, we are opposites. We had so much love for opposites that we would bring them beautiful jewelry. We would make regalia for them. We would share foods for them. We would be there when they had losses, and we would be there at celebrations. And so I think about every one of us in this room as opposites, and are we doing that for each other? And so we've forgotten, I think, in our own families that it isn't just about ourselves. We have to reach out to the opposites who sometimes aren't always getting along. So what is it that we can do to kind of help in that area? That I think is one of the things that we can work on. Tough job, but I know you can do it. It's all about relationships. This is a picture of me when in 1993, I had the opportunity to travel to Yakutsk, Siberia, and I was there. Jim Walton is also from Juneau. He was the reason why I ended up in Siberia, and what a life-changing experience for me. A couple other places that I've been able to travel, Australia, and just be with the people there. I've just really come to see how much alike we are, and how beautiful their cultures are, and how much more I need to learn. And it isn't about me going in and telling anybody what they need to do. It's quite the opposite. Yeah. How can I help, or what can I do, or yeah. This is a picture of Rita Blumenstein and myself, and I just grew up with her as being Auntie Rita, and I know Amita and Vivian and Susan. I don't know how many people know of Rita, or yeah. And I wanted to put this picture of her today because she is today is her last day of work, and they're having her retirement party today in Anchorage, and they have in the past they've had a Rita Blumenstein Day in Anchorage celebrating Rita, and she's the first certified traditional healer in the state. Although we have many and many before her traditional healers, she's the first certified healer. And although she delivered her first child at age 9, and she learned from her grandmother, and she just has so many different teachings. And I have a little bookmark to give you today with a picture of her and my grandmother and one of Rita's sayings or quotes. It's really beautiful. And I think I'll just actually read it. But it says, we are free to be who we are, to create our own life out of the past and out of the present. We are our ancestors. When we can heal ourselves, we also heal our ancestors, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, and our children. When we heal ourselves, we heal Mother Earth. Rita Pitka Blumenstein. And so she always says that we are all our own healers, and that we need to learn to be ourselves. And the older we get, I think sometimes it's harder it is for us to be ourselves. Unlike the children who were able to just not worry about what other people thought and just followed their hearts and spirits. So I just wanted to honor Rita, especially today, and thank her for the work that she's helped with throughout the state in many different ways. It is the mothers, not the warriors, who create a people and guide their destiny. I believe that's Luther Standing Bear that said that. Oh, this is Naya again with my sister Hattie. My granddaughters. A couple of my grandsons. This, I don't, maybe somebody knows this beautiful person, but I found, totally grabbed that off the internet. It really caught my eye, just beautiful, but it just really to honor the murdered and missing Indigenous women and also men. And that is something, and the reason why we do what we do is to really help change our communities and change the way we look at each other. And again, if we just practice that women are sacred, when is the last time we told our daughters that? We told ourselves that, we told our wives, husband, our kids, and we all are sacred. But especially women, and especially if we need to hear from them, what can we do to help raise those voices and help provide that safe space? Because of her, we can. This is an Aboriginal woman, and they had a celebration in last year, I believe. There's also a person that I met in Australia that wrote a poem about this. It's called "Because of Her We Can," and it's just beautiful, and it talks about all the things that I just mentioned about, and then uplifting women. Something that was said about the Iroquois women. They're the heart of the nation. It's a picture of my daughters in the middle, and this is at Mamie Williams' potlatch in Juneau. I believe that's Gloria. She's from here, McKinley, and Nora down in Howard. I told her that, I said, wow, how did you get to sit between them? I love that picture. Beautiful Wishkitan sister. I had the opportunity to spend some time with Adelina Padilla, who is on the left, and she's the spiritual elder of the Chumash tribe in California. And she's also in Susan's documentary and in the book. And when she came to Juneau, Susan, how many years ago was that? Maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We just showed up at Marie Olson's doorstep, and Marie, in her young age, was out gardening. And they've never met before, but yet they just embraced like this. And they sang songs to each other right away, and it was just a beautiful moment. And so this was an example of, they treated each other as sacred. They were from two different cultures. They've never met. This is their meeting. And just brings me to tears to think about the beautiful song that they were singing to each other. And what a great example for us all. And we do these things for our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren and for, generations to come. Picture of all of my grandchildren there. And also another picture of my grandmother and Rita. And my grandmother on the left is, she was from Florida, and she moved to Alaska in the 50s with her 5 boys. And she lived in every region of the state and had many gifts and met many elders, and we still enjoy all these relationships today with their families. And one of the best gifts she was ever given when she moved to Uktiavik was my grandmother was given my Aunt Becky. And because of this beautiful friendship, I call it the true love story. The friendship grew And it didn't start off that way because my family on my grandma's side, they weren't trusted for many reasons. But eventually they became friends, and my grandmother was given, they became friends with the family, the Adams, and they gave my Aunt Becky to them as a gift. And they said that you need to have a girl, you have 5 boys, and we want to give you our daughter when we have the next girl. And my grandma didn't know if that was really she wasn't quite sure, but she was very shocked when actually that did happen. And it wasn't because girls were thought of as less than. It was a true gift, and also a sacrifice, because we know that a lot of gifts are sacrifices. And so my grandmother had the 5 white boys, and then my Aunt Becky. And then she moved to Kotzebue, Nome area, where she met Rita, introduced Rita to her husband, Bernie Blumenstein. Beautiful story there, but not enough time to share that. And then later moved to Juneau, where they were adopted into the Williams family, and spent some time later in Ketchikan. I had the opportunity to honor these 2 women together in March and April, and my grandmother was living in Anchorage at the time, and that weekend after the presentation, my grandma passed away. And so I just know that, and I had this longing to present about the 2 of them. And so I'm so glad that I did that. And I brought Rita over to visit my grandmother, who wasn't able to make it to the presentation. But I was so happy and blessed to be able to be there when my grandmother passed, and so happy that the 2 of them got to see each other before. If you're a plant enthusiast, a plant lover, you know that there are more and more people getting interested in a lot of our culture and the plants. And this woman on the bottom, Helen Dick, was from Lime Village, and her grandmother, I believe, hid her away when they came and took people to the boarding school. And she now is a wonderful teacher of the language in Kenai, and I know I've seen her help with big, huge moose hides. She could make a fish trap with her bare hands, and she's just amazing. And I just wanted to share with you some of these. We have all these, we have beautiful people in our communities, and we have to recognize them and maybe look in different ways. Another picture of Rita, my mom and I. We did a potlatch for my sister, and although we felt like we weren't quite sure how to do everything, we asked for help, and we chose to make decisions based on our heart, based on our values, and the traditional values. And so it turned out very beautiful, and it was a lot of work, but it was, we're just so glad to be able to do that and to share with our community, and thank our community for taking such good care of my sister. I could just share the this is one of the virtue cards that I love. And this one is the one Rita Blumenstein picked. I have a thing called the Virtues cards, and you just pick randomly, and Rita got humanity. It's interesting. And how I believe she's done a great job of connecting with people all over the world. So I just want to give thanks, and I love this because it says, give thanks for unknown blessings already on their way. And a lot of our ancestors operated that way. They would say, thank you for something before it even happened. And so thank you so much. I have everyone has some cedar, and I hope you've enjoyed touching it or smelling it. Cedar is one of the most sacred plants that we have. We have so many beautiful plants. Everywhere that cedar grows, they would say it's sacred, it's important. And if you want, you could go ahead and tear some up and put it in your bag. And then I have in the back, we have some, we can pass those around. You can either just take the cedar with you, or you can take some of the rose petals. And I have some oatmeal, and we've made, before we've done these different activities where you can make, they're bath bundles. So you can put it in your bath. Don't dump it in your bath, but throw the whole bag in there and you could reuse it again. But we can do that and take that as well. I also have some Devil's Club salve that was, the plants were collected by our New Beginnings Women's Group in Ketchikan. It's the domestic violence women's support group. And so they gathered the Devil's Club and they wanted to share something with you. So we have that as well in the back that we can pass out. And then, of course, these cards with honoring Rita. But Gunakchish, thank you.